There we go. Okay. All right. Now that I got everybody up and running, I'll make sure that I go through my list. But do make sure that you have your IDs and SQs and your packet out and handy and ready to rock and roll. So, like I said, I tried to squeeze in as much as I could yesterday in an effort to get into a good introduction, because we are going to have to hit the pause button and finish World War II when we come back. Okay, sorry, I was trying to find my place. Okay, so the goal today is to get section 2 stuff in your IDs and SQs and in your packet complete, and then make sure you don't have any questions about the World War II project. There's only a couple of things that I want to talk about really super quick before we get into your Google slide notes. Hold on, grabbing my reminders. All right, so I did punch in some grades this morning. So finally, all of your World War I, Chapter 17, 1920s, study guide, midterm, skip project, all that is finally in there. I do have to go through, I started working on Honors Project 2. I got to finish that today. And then after that, you won't have any World War II stuff on second 6 weeks grades. World War II through however far we get, that will all be the last and final 6 weeks grades. So I've only got chapter 18 and 19, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So five class grades left to put in Power School before you will see what your second 6 weeks grade looks like. And I don't know how many people this applies to in here. I think it's more of my third blocks situation. But if there's anything that you're missing and it's not over the 10-day dead mark or deadline, whatever, make sure that you get that to me by Friday, please. Is that it? I feel like I'm forgetting stuff. Okay. All right. So yeah, missing work to me by Friday. Today I want you to make sure that you're working on World War II projects. I meant to grab some examples. That's one of the things I forgot to pull out. A reminder about Honors Project 3. My man Austin is on it. He has turned his in. He is done. Yeah, I hear you. Don't forget about it. That's the biggest thing. So don't forget about Honors Project 3.
Trying to get it out of the way right now.
Yeah, we're in the home stretch. You've got one last and final honors project. I can't hear you. Oh no. I don't know how to fix that, Gage. I've got my speakers on. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to go on if you can fix it. Maybe. Okay. I lost my train of thought. Oh, I know what I was gonna say. So don't forget, one thing that I want you thinking about over the break is who it is that you think that you can interview. Like I said, I do not want the excuse that you don't have anybody, because Mr. Lamb here at the high school would be a phenomenal choice if you don't have someone else. I promise you, it will be 20 times more meaningful if you have a friend or close relative that you can do it with. I wish that I had been smart enough to do this with my grandparents before they passed. All right, so theoretically, I'd like for you to try and find somebody that's 65 and older. If they're not, if they're younger than that, that's fine. But I'm going to give you a list of questions. An example: childhood memories. What was it like going to school as a child versus what is it like going to school today? How have things changed? How have women's roles changed? Who's your favorite president? What do you remember doing as a child? Prices. How have prices of things changed? Kind of like that. I mean, but it's a whole list of questions. Obviously, once you see the list of questions, you're going to have to edit the ones that you ask, because you're probably not going to have somebody that remembers living during the Great Depression, things like that. So you'll have to kind of edit and tailor that depending on how old they are and when they were born. But off of the list I give you, I want you to ask 15 questions off I think I give you like 25 or 30. And I want you to pick 15 that you would like to know from that individual. So you do record the conversation. You can either video it or you can just do an audio recording of it. I will be the only one to listen to that. I just want to throw that out there because I have had students in the past be like, well, I'm interviewing Uncle Johnny and he, says the F-bomb every other word. I've heard it. I've heard it all. And that's fine because I'm the only one that's going to be listening to it. Nobody else will. So there's several pieces that go along with this. I probably Friday will go ahead and throw up all the components into Google Classroom just so you can check it out. So whenever you do schedule a time to do your interview with your person, you can go ahead and ask them for artifacts while you're there. And what do I mean by artifacts? I mean, maybe they have a scrapbook. Don't take the scrapbook, just take pictures of stuff in the scrapbook. Maybe they have a report card from when they were a kid. I actually found my mom and dad's report card from elementary school. That was pretty cool to see. Maybe they have medals that they've got. Maybe, anyway. So you're going to find a couple of artifacts, and that's something that you probably want to talk to them about before you get there too. Give them a heads up. Again, the biggest thing is working on projects today. And I don't think this applies to anybody in second block. So no, all right, so I won't say it. All right, let's do this. Follow along. I'm going to try really hard not to get emotional today. It always gets me every time we get into the Holocaust. I'm going to intro into it today and we'll probably finish tomorrow. And I'm going to try my best not to cry. I don't know what it is. Every time it gets to me. So let me share my screen. I had the honor and the privilege of listening to not only a Holocaust survivor tell their story, but it was a Holocaust survivor from the twin studies during the Holocaust. And that was beyond amazing to hear her story because we know that 6 million people lose their lives, but the number of twins that actually survive it is even smaller. She signed her book for me. She's got a couple of books out there about her study. Dr. Mendengold, who is known as the Angel of Death, she was at Auschwitz, the #1 death capital concentration camp. I mean, anyway, I'm gonna save my story before I get too far into it. But it's amazing. And I have 2 of her books. If anybody wants to ever borrow, they're super quick reads and they both have a ton of pictures in here. So if anybody wants to borrow one, just throwing that out there. Okay, so here's what I have for you for today. We're going to finish up our intro into the war. Again, the United States is not in it. What was the United States doing at the very beginning of World War II?
Focusing on themselves.
Yep, focusing on us, right? We are isolating ourselves. We have gone very much to a quarantine policy. Excuse me. And so we're staying out of it. We're still trying to fix ourselves economically and get out of the Great Depression. So a quick overview of where we started yesterday. We know the Axis powers, the bad guys in Europe, are Italy and Germany. We know that there is a war on 2 fronts. We know that the Germans have gone after the Soviet Union on the Eastern Front. They've gone after the allies of Great Britain and France on the Western Front. We fast forward to June of 1940. We know that Hitler was able to invade and take over France by June of 1940. France falls. And so once Germany has France, they're looking at the next ally. However, the next ally has a little bit of an obstacle because you've got to go across water. So that's exactly where we're going today. We're going to talk about the Battle of Britain. All right. There we go. All right. Battle of Britain. Here we go. I don't know why this is not scooting up. Why is that not scooting up like it usually does? I don't know. I don't know how to move that out of the way. I'm sorry. I think all it's covering up is where it says Battle of Britain. Maybe. I hope. Anyway. All right. So here's what we got. So Great Britain, there it is. Great Britain is the next target. Germany controls most of Europe by this point in time. Again, Germany is moving so fast. We learned some German yesterday, Blitzkrieg, the idea of lightning warfare. They are moving so hard and so fast that they almost have everybody in shock that they're moving that quickly. So again, some more German for you. The Luftwaffe is the German Air Force. So we've got the Luftwaffe that are going and bombing Great Britain. We've got the Royal Air Force that will be protecting the British. And we have new inventions. Every war has new inventions. Radar and sonar are new inventions we will be using during World War II. The British are using radar in their airplanes, which is that's one of the biggest things that's helping them. And the other thing is the Battle of Britain is all up in the air. The Germans never launched a land invasion. And so a lot of people think that that was kind of the big mistake on the Germans' part. If they had launched a land invasion, could things have gone very differently during the Battle of Britain? Maybe, I don't know. We can play the what if game. Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, says, "Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few," meaning that the citizens of Great Britain really owe their lives to the Royal Air Force and all they were able to accomplish to be able to hold off and push back the Germans, the Luftwaffe Air Force. So again, Germany never launches a land invasion. Here's a great picture. Again, they're bombing London. There's London Bridge. Always makes me think of the nursery rhyme. London Bridge is falling down. So there's a London Bridge. They're bombing London. Everybody, all citizens are going into basements, creating their own bomb shelters in their backyards. People were actually digging like right outside their house. If they had like little personal gardens, they were digging up their gardens and putting in these big metal, I don't know what you call them, like piping type material. They were putting it, laying it in the ground and making sure that it was tall enough, like only four feet tall enough to squeeze in and under if they need to find somewhere safe to go during the bombings. Another thing that was handed out, because we were worried about chemical warfare during World War II, so handing out gas masks. If you've ever watched the show, it's not as popular as it used to be, Pawn Stars, where people go in, and I think it's in Vegas, isn't it? And somebody had brought in a World War II gas mask, and it was for a baby. And it was almost like this little cradle that you would put the baby in, and then you would slide it inside almost like a rucksack and close it up that way. And it was supposed to be like a gas mask for a baby. So they're handing out gas masks to civilians. Again, we're concerned about the possibility of chemical warfare. Now, the Battle of Britain is going to be an ally victory. All right, this is not a turning point. Things are still at a critical point in time, but we are going to switch gears a little bit. So, like I said, I'm going to intro into the Holocaust, and then I'll have to finish tomorrow. Why is this thing not going away? It's aggravating me. Let me see if I can. I'll try to stop sharing and then share back and see if it fixes itself. Maybe. Come on. There we go. Okay. All right. It's working now. All right. So my hope is that most of you have a pretty firm foundation on the Holocaust, what it is, what went down, because again, we're going to have to fly through something that was happening for 10 years and in a day and a half, roughly. Such is American history. Okay. Now, let's take it a few steps back. Like, how was everything starting? And again, it started really slow, early 1930s to mid 1930s, and then everything really starts to escalate pretty hard and pretty fast, especially when Hitler sits down and creates his final solution. And the final solution was to speed up the extermination of all undesirables. Who do we put in that category of, quote, undesirables, Julian?
Anyone's not Aryan.
There you go. Now, what is the description of Aryan?
Blue-eyed, blonde hair, pure German blood.
Yep, there you go. Pure German blood, excuse me. And what a lot of people don't realize is that both were happening, and they were happening at the same time. So not only is Germany going after and exterminating these undesirables, but on the other hand, they're also working on creating a perfect race. They are also finding these pure Germans and creating their own baby making process so that they can not only get rid of undesirables, but build up their population of, quote, the perfect race. A lot of anti-Jewish sentiment, but this is something that goes back to biblical times. This is nothing new. I love reading historical fiction, and so many books talk about all these things that are associated with Jews, that they are supposed to be money hungry, they're liars, they're cheats. So all this stuff actually goes back to biblical times. It is nothing that was just created by the Germans. And so Hitler, again, starts to point people in the direction of a reason. And that's what he does. So he writes his book, Mein Kampf, which just means my struggle. And again, he's trying to put the blame for Germany's problems on their country being diluted by all these undesirables. Again, the biggest group being Jews. And he says we need to work on creating a master race. So let's speed up. Nuremberg Law, September 1935. Again, they're building up to it. So they start taking away individual rights. They start banning marriages of Jews and Germans. And if you were a German that was married to a Jew, you were pulled out in the middle of the street. You had to walk around holding a sign up. People spat at you, threw food at you, called you names. So they banned marriages. If you were a Jew, that you were kicked out of public office, you weren't allowed to vote anymore. So taking away all those basic civil rights, you had to walk around wearing the Star of David. It's almost like if you had to walk around with your name tag on you with a description of who you are, what your religious affiliation is, your ethnic background. That's kind of what's happening with Jews. So walking around wearing the Star of David. A lot of kids are kicked out of schools if they were going to schools with other Germans. And then again, speed it up again to Kristallnacht, 1938. Kristallnacht means Night of the Broken Glass. And so what happens is the Gestapo, the German police, and Nazi soldiers are going through cities, both in Germany and in Austria, and they're destroying public property. Like they literally are going into people's homes and they're destroying everything. And of course, they're trying to give just cause. And the just cause is that they're looking for weapons, even though that's not really what's happening. They could care less. Excuse me. They're stealing from them. They're destroying their property and their houses. They're going so far as to destroying synagogues. What was a synagogue? Yeah, their place of worship. So it's just pretty much showing that nothing's off limits, nothing's considered sacred or holy or safe. That's one of the biggest things they're taking away from them. They're taking away that feeling of being safe. All right, here's you a picture, of his book, Mein Kampf, which Hitler in himself has a very interesting story. If you ever look up his life when he's younger and kind of all those, like, there's a lot of psychology there as to why he ends up the way he is. But anyway, all right, so there are some very popular individuals that are also going to have to make a lot of big decisions. Here's Albert Einstein. The good news is that there are some that are able to get out. The bad news is that that's only a very small percentage. After Hitler's election, a lot of Jews are getting the heck out of there as fast as they can. We know somewhere over 300,000, but that's like 2% that are actually able to get out. The rest have a lot of other reasons. Here's the big question. Why did others not go when there was the chance, when there was the opportunity? All right, very similar to kind of how we've talked about before. How easy would it be for you to just pack up everything and just leave with the idea that you probably won't ever come back? You're leaving the country, you're leaving family, friends, the only life you've ever known. You're gonna have to leave your property. You're not gonna be able to pack anything more than what goes in your suitcase. That's it. Everything else you're leaving behind. So a lot of people didn't have visas to be able to leave the country. A lot of people did not want to leave behind, especially if you're a wealthy individual, to just walk away with that because, and I don't have this in your notes, they even have restrictions that you could not leave with more than $5 in your pocket. That's it. $5 in your pocket. And so a lot of people just had a really hard time choking down the idea of leaving everything, leaving their wealth behind. And here's another assumption. We assume that things are just going to get better. Let's wait it out. This is temporary, right? Kind of like us in 2020 in quarantine, right? And the face mask. God, I hate the face mask. But that's kind of like what we're feeling, right? Like we're hoping just around the corner, things are going to get better. Things are going to improve. They didn't want to give up their lives, but a lot just had a hard time leaving everything behind. So some get out, a lot do not, for multiple reasons. It's not just one thing. All right. So again, we said that Hitler gets to the point, 1939, he creates his final solution, the decision to rid Europe of all Jews, again, and other undesirables. We can't forget that. I know a lot of the emphasis is put on Jews, and they make up a large majority, but again, there's other, quote, undesirables that are also being exterminated, right? And in multiple different ways. Gas chambers is the easiest way because that was the way to do a mass execution. And it was really interesting, and this is one of the things that she talks about in her book when she talks about being in Auschwitz, is that they had a doctor that would be present at the gas chambers, and he would only write one death certificate for all 50 bodies that were in the room. He would only write one death certificate. So Wannsee Conference happens. Again, Nazi leaders decide that we need to crank up the efforts. We are not doing enough fast enough because, again, the war is almost like what's covering up what's happening underneath, which is what's going on with these concentration camps, labor camps, death camps. So you would, if you were picked because you were healthy enough and young enough to work, if not, if you were elderly, if you were disabled, or if you were in that undesirable category, you would be immediately exterminated. And we would either use your body and just like bury it, or the, what are they called? You would just be sent to the ovens and they would burn your body. So she talks about all the time the smell of burnt hair and burnt flesh. You just smelled it all day, every day, from where they were just continuing to keep the crematories open and running with, burning the bodies. But anyway, so we know that you either worked until you died of malnutrition, because she talks about all the time that once, maybe possibly twice a day, you got what they called coffee, which she said just looked like dirty water, and then maybe a half a piece of bread. And that was what was supposed to get you through, unless you were able to find food, sneak it out of the kitchen, steal it from somebody. And she said, literally, you would watch people kill each other over something as small as a piece of bread, or die from exhaustion. You can even fathom working so hard that you die from exhaustion. So she talks about in her book that for the twin studies, they were used for experiments, and her twin ended up dying because of the experiments they did on her. The twins were used, you know, in science class, you have somebody that's considered the variable and the control, right? So one of them received like placebos, like not the real thing, and then the other got the actual shot of whatever they were trying to experiment with. And they said whatever they had, shot into her sister ended up freezing her kidneys and her organs to where they didn't grow anymore. They almost stopped at the size they were when they were 8 years old. And so she ended up having kidney failure, and she died, and she had cancer. I mean, she had all these issues that popped up. But she said they were in a room because the girl twins were kept separate from the boy twins. And this shows you an example of one of many experiments that were done, boys being castrated to see how they live after that. We know that their clothes are taken from them. They get in line, their head is shaved, they're tattooed with their identification number. There's no longer names, you're just known by a number. So she talks about this experience and how she didn't think she was going to live through it, but they were actually at Auschwitz. They were liberated by Russian soldiers that came into the camps. Okay, all right, I'm probably past my time and where I wanted to start. So I'm going to stop there and we're going to keep going tomorrow because, I got some good stories to share, but if I get into it, I won't be able to stop. So, and I stopped before I got all emotional, so that's good too. All right, grab your IDs and SQs. We're going to knock out section 2. I want to make sure that you don't have any questions about anything, but we're in section 2, IDs and SQs, section 2 in your packets, and we're going to finish up those last couple of questions on your political cartoon before I let you use work time on the World War II menu or whatever else you work on. All right, here we go. Section 2, World War II begins. Number 9 says, what regions did Hitler take or demand in the period leading up to World War II? Austria is one. We're going to put 3. There's more, but we're going to put 3. So Austria, and yeah, Czechoslovakia is like super hard to write. So we're just going to put Czech for short, which is capital C, Z-E-C-H. Just put Czech. I won't make you spell out the whole thing unless you know how to. So Austria, Czechoslovakia are just Czech. And then Rhineland, capital R-H-I-N-E-L-A-N-D. Rhineland, which is the land that's right there in between the edge of Germany and Belgium. So those are the pieces they take in the beginning. Number 10 says, why did Europe's leaders first try to deal with Hitler through appeasement? What were they trying to do? Avoid war. Yes, absolutely. That's your answer. Avoid war. They were trying really hard to avoid another war. Number 11, what was the new type of warfare used by Germany against Poland? And that is one of our many German words. You remember what it is? Blitzkrieg. Yeah, good. Fantastic. Working on your German. Blitzkrieg. All right, hold on. You ready? Here's how to spell it. B-L-I-T-Z-K-R-I-E-G. Blitzkrieg. Okay, hold on. There's 2 parts to that question. And then it says explain the technique. You can just put lightning warfare as a short example, lightning warfare, but it's just a tactic to where they hit them as hard and as fast with as much ammunition and bombs as possible. But lightning warfare is a short example. All right, where are we at? 12. Why was the decision to leave French forces behind the Maginot Line disastrous for Europe? They were not able to hold off the German forces. They were not able to hold off the German forces. I mean, they had no clue what was coming. They weren't ready for it. All right, 13 is your last question. How was Britain able to resist Hitler and the Nazis? New technology. Write that down. Using new technology. That was the biggest thing. The other thing is that the Germans didn't launch a land invasion. You don't have to put that. I just wanted to talk about it. But the biggest thing is using new technology. And for airplanes, it was using radar. So they could tell where they were and how fast they were coming, what direction. All right, so your IDs, there's 4 of them. Most of these we've talked about. Ausschluss, and again, I apologize for my German, but Ausschluss means unity. Unity, that's what I want you to put, unity for number 14. So Hitler was trying to unify Germany with the pieces they originally had before they were chipped apart after World War I. So they were trying to unify their empire. All right, 15, Munich Conference. Attempt, here's what I want you to write down. Attempt to appease Germany. Attempt to appease Germany. Again, we're trying to prevent war during this peace conference. Winston Churchill, who is he?
He was the leader at the Battle of Britain. He was the leader for Britain, or was he
Prime Minister?
Prime Minister. Yep. Prime Minister of Great Britain. Yep. Prime Minister of Great Britain. And last but not least, number 17, Battle of Britain. Put Ally victory. We're going to put Ally victory for the Battle of Britain. All right, we're going to knock out a couple of things in your packet before I make sure you don't have any questions and I give you work time on your projects. All right, 20-2 is fill in the blank, so we'll be able to go through this pretty quickly. So make sure that you are in your packet, guided reading, 20-1. Number 1 says, Hitler sent troops into Austria in March of 1938 and announced the Auslands, or reunification. That's your answer for number 1. 20-1.
Didn't we do 20-1 yesterday?
Wait a minute. Oh my God. 20-2. I swear to you, I thought I was saying it right the whole time. I'm not going to lie. That's how crazy I am. I really thought I was saying it right. 20-2. Did y'all not know? That's what I was saying. God almighty. Okay, 20-2. Let's try this again. Have you got it? Is it not there?
I don't think so.
Oh my God. It's
I
not.
have 21 dash.
Yeah.
Wow.
21-2, 21-3, then 21-4.
All right. I didn't even do y'all's packets right. Because, oh my God. Okay. Okay. That's not the page that is supposed to be in there. You're just going to mark out 21-2. That's the wrong chapter. It's the wrong page. Just mark it out. Okay. So apparently I did not put the right page in your packet. Jeez. Okay. All right. Let's just finish up your political cartoon then. How about that? How about that? Just lost my mind. I'm so ready for spring break. I can't even stand it. Maybe that's what it is. All right. So yesterday we did all but the last 3 questions. We got to do number 4, 5, and 6 on your political cartoon. All right. Number 4 says, what does the hand across the sea symbolize in the top cartoon? That's supposed to symbolize our friendship. So his hand across the sea is supposed to symbolize our friendship, our allyship, that we support them as friends and allies, but we're not ready to actually physically help them. All right, number 5, it says, read the caption above the figures on the right in the bottom panel. What widespread attitude of Americans during the 1930s does this portray? Oh, geez. This has been copied so much, I can't even read it anymore. I guess I need to get my original copy out. Write this down, because here's your answer. I do know the answer. Most Americans wanted to immediately jump in and help. A lot of Americans are really frustrated and had mixed emotions about how and how much we should help. But a lot of Americans were frustrated that we were dragging our feet yet again You know, even though we have our own situation, we just felt like we're going to get in this eventually. Why not go ahead and help now? And number 6, what message is the cartoonist presenting? Do you agree with the philosophy, their philosophy? Why or why not? So again, this is an opinion question. You can't really go wrong on that. But do you agree with how he's trying to portray the United States, that we're dragging our feet, we're not ready to get involved in the very beginning, we're trying to safeguard American lives by waiting? You know, he himself believes, you know, this is not necessarily our fight. Very similar to World War I, in that it does not immediately affect us in the very beginning. So there's no wrong or right answer. You tell me what you think. So do you agree with his philosophy of us waiting and not getting in immediately, or not? Let's see what my time is. Okay. All right. So sorry that I jacked your packet up so bad. So that 21-2, we're skipping because we're going to do it whenever we get to 21, not right now. All right, my online people, any questions, comments, or concerns before I let you go? I'm going to give these guys in here time to go ahead and either work on their appetizer or do research. If you need me, hang on. If not, I'm going to let you go. Happy Tuesday.
Bye, Miss Walker.
Bye. I miss you.
I miss you too.